Alright, it's time to get this rocket ready for flight. We're going to do the full preparation and flight on an A83 motor. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of electrical tape, or rather I'm going to score it with a hobby knife all the way around about halfway through the width of the tape. What I've noticed here is if I go all the way around one time, it normally only cuts through about one layer of tape, which is all we're going to need here. You see me cutting it all the way around there. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to wrap it around the back of the motor. And the goal is to wrap enough tape so that the outside diameter of the motor with the tape on it is equal to the outside diameter of the body tube itself. So I like to put the tape on there pretty tight. You can see me kind of stretching it. I want it to make sure that it stays on there good. Here I'm doing a little bit of a test fit, and it looks like I'm going to need a little more tape on there to get the diameter correct. So the reason we're putting all this tape on this motor is that we want to keep the motor inside the rocket during the flight. Now, the rocket itself does have a motor block inside, so that will prevent the motor from shooting through the rocket on takeoff. But we need this tape here to keep the motor inside the rocket when the ejection charge goes off. And the way this is going to work is I'm going to wrap another piece of electrical tape around the back of the rocket that makes contact or sticks to both the body tube of the rocket and that tape around the motor itself. Now, the other way to do this is to just wrap a bunch of tape around the motor itself and make sure it's really tight inside the body tube and have the friction between the body tube and the tape around the motor prevent it from ejecting out the back when the ejection charge goes off. But I prefer to put this tape around the back because it's easier to get the motor out after the rocket launches, and I think it just puts less stress on the rocket overall. Now you really only need to do one layer of tape here. If you do too many layers of tape, the launch rod, when you go to put the rocket on the launch rod, is going to be too tight and the rocket's not going to be able to take off. Okay, it looks like I decided to put another piece of tape on the side opposite the launch lug just for reinforcement. And then after I got all the tape on there, I kind of like to push down on it with my fingers and make sure it's making full contact with the tube. Okay, now we're going to install the recovery wadding, and what the wadding does is prevent the recovery system from burning up when the ejection charge goes off. I'm just using the square sheets wadding from Estes. I think I take out 4 to start with, and then I end up adding 2 more later. And what I like to do is roll them up really small to start with to make sure they get to the bottom of the body tube. And the reason I want these sheets to get to the bottom of the body tube is I want to make sure that they are below the shock cord mount. Believe it or not, it's kind of easy to just start putting these sheets of wadding in and bury the shock cord such that it's down by the motor, and then the shock cord is no longer protected from the ejection charge. So we want to make sure we prevent that situation from happening, and that's why I'm rolling these up real small. Okay, now I'm starting to install the shock cord and the streamer. You can pretty much roll up the streamer any way you want to, such that it fits inside the rocket and that it will sort of unravel when it comes out of the rocket. And another point I want to make is that if there's going to be a long time between preparing your rocket for flight and flying the rocket itself, take the streamer back out of the rocket and re-roll it up, because otherwise when it comes out of the rocket, it might just kind of fall down as a clump instead of actually acting like a streamer that actually slows down the rocket when it's coming down. All right, ready for flight. Okay, so the rocket looks good, perfectly intact, and the motor stayed in the rocket. You can see there, and be ready to prepare for another flight.